Welcome to the round table. I am Jennifer Eller, and with me today is Mike Hill, Nick Wilson. He knows I don't like to be looked at, so that's why he's staring at me. So
that's why I'm going to look at Ellen the whole time.
I don't like to be looked at either. Look at Jim.
And then today our guests are Jim and Ellen Nunley. Woohoo! Yay. So back in June, Life Church helped support them in an event that they were doing called Running for Christ. So this was the second year that they had done this event. And so we wanted to share the story because there was a lot of opposition and obstacles that took place that week, that day, but ultimately in the end, God showed up. And so Jim just really wanted to share that story of like perseverance and to just highlight the glory that God provided through all of that event. So people who don't know what Running for Christ is, just kind of give us just a little insight of what the main idea behind the event is.
You want
Nope.
that one?
You.
So basically, Running for Christ is just it's a barrel racing event, basically just designed to be an outreach to that community for people that run their horses, run barrel racings on the weekend that wouldn't normally get a chance to go to church service to see God. So we decided to take Jesus to them.
Because that's your life. You guys do that in the summer too. You go to a lot of horse shows.
Yeah,
horse events.
as many as possible. Try to go every weekend.
Do you
God
have any
willing.
time where people are doing church?
No.
They're I shouldn't say that.
Some of the
bigger shows, like Sunday morning, they'll have like a little service, but
But those are your big
usually
indoor
it's really
type
early in the
stuff.
morning, and not very many people go.
Yeah,
So.
it's nothing
Like
like it's
we wouldn't
nothing.
because we're just trying to get ready for like
Right.
the
It's
day,
nothing like
and
what we did with the worship team, and
it's not like a full service.
yeah,
It's,
Right.
it's just somebody reads a little pasture or something,
And is the normal, like the people you run into, is the crowd, I don't know if that's the right word for it, is the crowd people who need Jesus? You see a lot of people that aren't in church, are in church. Like you guys are around those people. Because I always said, like being a mechanic, one of the things you learn in the mechanic world, there are a lot of people that need Jesus.
100%.
And so
I would agree
I'm
with
not
that 100%.
condemning. Like I guess I don't want
Right.
to come across that way, but you know your crowd. Like, are there people that this is it's a need because they are going to be gone. And even if it's for
Right.
somebody who's churched, so it gives them an opportunity to do church. But what about people? How receptive are people that are unchurched to doing church at?
That's a good question. How receptive are people? I don't know. I guess to answer the first question, and just being out there, talking with people or whatever. I mean, I don't know if it's a 50-50 crowd. Because I've
met a lot of barrel racers that I felt like needed Jesus.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
absolutely, 100%. I was going to say that, but then on the flip side of that, you meet a lot of really good-hearted, awesome people.
Yeah, I guess that's what I want to clarify. Just because they don't know Jesus doesn't mean they're not awesome people.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's tons of awesome people that
Right.
just don't know Christ. I just
Right.
didn't know. Like, are people receptive to that? And are people like, wow, this is a...
I mean, I guess my whopping 2 years of experience of doing the shows, because I made it a point to go around in the evening, and ask people, why are you here? Is it here because of the money that we put? Because that's the draw to get people there.
Sure.
Or are you here for Jesus? And I mean, I just feel like that was like a 50-50, So we put, $2,000 added in the barrels, which is a big deal for an outdoor, show or whatever. That gets the crowd there. But then there were some, like I talked to a father-daughter couple last year that drove 4 hours to come to that show just because of what it was. Mm-hmm. And that to me was awesome.
Right.
I mean, so, yeah, I don't know, 50-50, hit or miss,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
And then we had people complain too. There were people that complained
That
that we
you did
stopped the
church.
show and had
Sure.
a church,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
Because that's hard on a horse? Or just
No.
because they're sick of it? Or got an agenda?
It's
or,
because they need something to complain about.
well, it makes the show run longer.
Right.
But I mean, it's not like it wasn't advertised. It wasn't a surprise to anybody.
Yeah, they're like, you should do it before, or you should do it after, and it's designed the way it's designed for a reason, for a specific reason, and because that's when you're going to get the most people there. Whether they're there at the service or not, they're on the grounds and it's very loud. And even if there's only a small group like at the service, that all bleeds out. So one way or another, they're going to get a little bit of it, and maybe that's enough to plant a seed. I don't know. I mean, that's not my job to know.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, and again, and you guys are in the world of anytime you try to do anything that matters, you're going to have people complain, and there's going to be obstacles, and there's going to be things that you're going to run into, because that's the reality of if you go with the flow like everybody else, then you're like everybody else, you know, and if you go to just perfect what somebody else is doing, I mean, that's way different than recreating something and doing something different.
yeah.
Right, because that's what you're doing, is you're breaking the mold.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
know, you're
that's
saying that's like,
there's certain things, like when it comes to the service, when it comes to the way the show's laid out, it's not going to change, period. Because if it changes, we're just not going to do it.
right.
I mean, if I'm just not going to bend to what the majority wants when it comes to this. It's just too important.
I mean, you think of majority? You say bend to what the majority wants. So you think the
Well,
majority are like,
I think
I
if,
think
I
we
think if
could
you
do
give
it
them
without having the church service, and we'd still have a ton of people.
because of the money.
Yeah.
no, for sure.
But I think if you let people choose when the service was, they would do it very first thing or after everything was over, because it's more convenient for them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I think.
So last year we did the church service, and this year, I mean, did you have complaints last year as well, or is it just the way everything trickled down on Saturday? They were complaining more this year, and we'll get into that. But I was just curious if
I don't think we had complaints. The only complaint I heard was because of the way it panned out, some people couldn't get to service.
Yeah, the timing was an issue last year, but again, I guess I personally heard some of the same, why you stopping the show in the middle of the show for the service, you know, why are you doing it that way type complaints.
I was just curious with all that happened on Saturday.
I
if
think
that
it was
more-
definitely more heavy this year than what it was. I mean, when you start 4 hours late and then you take, you know, a little over an hour out of an already 4 hour delayed show. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So let's talk about, you know, kind of what Wednesday kind of started your whole week and all that you had going on. So
You want me to go first?
I mean, I didn't do anything until like Friday. So.
Yeah.
well, you
that's
had
not
some
true.
stuff. I mean, your story kind of started a little bit earlier in the
Yeah,
week. Maybe
I
like
think-
even Monday.
I think
and what you
I think it
wrote.
both started for us Monday.
Yeah.
Because of the forecast that they were calling for, you know, bunches of rain. And I'm not an anxious person by no means, and weather is usually the right. Weather is usually
Don't worry, I got it.
the last thing that I worry about, because there's zero control there, but I don't. But for whatever reason, it hit me pretty hard Monday, and again, like I said at the service or whatever, I'm not much of a prayer, but I have that conversation a lot, and it kind of forced me that direction for the next couple of days, which was cool. But starting Monday, you could just tell that the weight of this was very, very, very heavy. Like, it was way different this year than last year. I believe Satan had us caused into this one pretty deep this year. I just really do. But yeah, so that kind of started Monday. But then Wednesday night, you know, I brought the trailer in for the worship team to set up rehearsal. So I don't think people realize, but for that 2-day span, day and a half span, you know, I've got 6 days worth of labor invested in doing that. So it's a lot, and you run hard. I mean, you don't eat. Saturday morning, I went to bed at 3:30 in the morning after the show Friday night because it was huge. You know, we had 140 head in the barrel class Friday night, which, I mean, in an outdoor pen, there's probably not going to be one bigger than that in the whole state this summer. To give you an
On a
idea
Friday night.
of how big that is, in an outdoor pen, 140 head of barrels is huge. It really is. So, I don't know how far you want me to.
Well, you
keep
had
rambling,
obstacles
but-
on Friday night that
Well,
started
and,
coming
and
up.
it rained Tuesday, and it poured Tuesday, and I had like a complete breakdown Tuesday, and my tire went flat.
That's right.
I'm driving and I'm calling him and I'm like just losing it over my tire. And then he was like, "What's really wrong?" Because it's not your tire. And I was like, "It's raining." And
Right.
But then it dried, and we were like, okay, like maybe that's just what the arena needed. You know, we needed it to be wet. The ground has to have a certain level of moisture in it to be safe. And I was like, all right. So we just kept setting up. I don't think we had major stuff Wednesday, Thursday.
No,
Just
it was pretty
busy.
decent. Yeah, it was busy. So Friday rolled around, and the show started, and again, the atmosphere was just completely different than it was last
It
year.
was very tense.
Very tense. I mean, it was just lots and lots and lots of people were complaining. We had the girls in the entry booth that were getting cussed at. Just overall, people were not nice people at all. Friday night rolled. We had troubles with the arena lights. Breakers were popping. We had timer issues. We had some hiccups in the entry booth. Some people didn't get put in. I mean, it was just, again, if Friday night was really, really rough, and then they were calling for a whole bunch of rain Saturday. So we're all like praying, there's no way he's going to let it rain on this.
Well, and
it's
it had
just
like
important.
the chances had been backing off.
Yeah. So all evening they kept pushing rain back. So we got done with this big, the big barrel race Friday night. Wake up Saturday morning, never rained.
Yeah,
And
just
we're
a little.
like, well, yeah, I guess it did rain a little bit. More like prayers are answered. We're ready to rock. And about 8 o'clock, the rain came.
And it
And it
didn't
came.
stop.
It came. And this is really where things really started to go south. And I don't know if you want me to fill in on all this.
You
but
talk. I'll just jump in.
it basically was, so it kept raining. And again, things just kept getting heavy, and tempers were just, you could just tell people were getting very, very, very edgy. And just through it all, I mean, I can make this really long, but long story short, we had a little bit of miscommunication with the people that we had picked to help run the show, the tractor driver, the tractor, all the entry booth help. And early that morning, luckily Mike Dennis was out there, and I told him even, I was like, this was pretty early in the morning. I just looked at him and I said, there's going to be a fight today. I was like, you could just feel it. I mean, you could just feel it in the air. I was like, there's going to be a fight today. This is going to get ugly. And, he
told me that.
he was there through it all. So anyways, as time went on, more rain. At the end of the day, they decided that they didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And they literally made the decision that they were going to leave. This was 10 o'clock in the morning or so.
11. Yeah.
Again, some miscommunication there. Nothing in my opinion that warranted that type of response. So they basically made the decision to leave.
Well,
and
to be fair, I told them they could leave because
Right.
I knew that they were worried about attaching themselves to the show. And I was like, if you want to leave, you can leave and we will handle this. But it just didn't, the leaving happened a little bit more like abrupt and sudden and angry than we
that's-
expected.
Because they thought the ground wasn't going to be fit with all of the rain that was happening, and so
Right.
they didn't want something to happen
Right.
and then trouble.
They didn't want their names attached to something that could go wrong, which I get it. And I was like, we thought that was the best thing to do, give you an out, whatever. It just, they didn't receive it the way we meant for it to be. So anyways. So
Meaning they got mad about it or what?
Yeah.
Because they felt like you told them to leave? Like, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They felt like they weren't welcome.
Like, I think part of it was like, you guys made a decision, they weren't a part of that decision making, and then they heard about it, and then they were upset because they weren't brought into that.
At the end of the day, it's our show. And we need to have good communication. And when we did, we talked that morning. And then her and I basically ended up, deciding what we were going to do. And when they found out about it, they didn't really
Well, because she
like
kept
it.
saying, and I was just getting text messages like, okay, they're gonna make a decision at like 10 or they're
Right.
like at
Well, it just
11,
kept
and
raining.
now
Right.
you're at
And it
12:30.
kept-
You
it
know,
kept
you just
raining,
kept
and it kept
waiting
raining,
because
and
you
it
were
kept raining.
hoping because
Because
you
it
would
was
like.
supposed to be like, it'll be done at 9:30.
Yeah.
And then it'll
Right.
be done at 10. And
Yeah.
then it just kept
Yeah,
coming. And
never
so we
stopped.
just kept
Right.
waiting.
Yeah.
So I guess I need to back it up a little bit, because during one of them, it was one of the last torrential downpours we got, and I'm literally standing out in the middle of the arena, and I mean, it's raining so hard you can't see 10 feet in front of you. You know, you look down at your boots, and I'm in ankle deep water. Water's running out of the window. I mean, it's pouring, unbelievably pouring, and just 10 minutes before that, I was in the entry booth, and the words were on the tip of my tongue. Like, it was one breath away from canceling the show. I mean, to this day, I really almost think I said the words, but I just don't think they came out. I mean, it was that close. I really do believe that. And I went out, and I'm just standing in that rain, and I just remember being like, God, what do you want me to do at this point? What do you want me to do? And he's, don't cancel the show. And I'm like, okay, we're going. I mean, if you say go that way, we're going. And then we're not doing this. And at that point, I'm like, things are going to get ugly. So we went up and was like, we're not canceling it. This is what we're doing. And at that point, they'd already made the decision. They were packing everything up at that point.
Well, actually, so the tractor driver and I were talking while he was out there, and he had said the same thing. Like, you should wait and because he had rolled the arena the night before, and he's like, bust it open and we'll see what it looks like when it's done raining. And so then I told him that, and he's like, that's just what I felt like God told me. So then I walk into the entry booth, and I'm like, God told Jim we're not canceling the show. They just all look at me like,
Right.
God told
Right.
him that. Like,
Yeah.
really?
That-
You really believe that?
That's, and that's what it was. But I guess at the end of the day, the point is, you know, they made a decision. They, you know, all the entry booth help left, the computers, the programming, the tractor, you know, the driver, the catch pen that was in the arena, everything that show needed to
Right.
run left right before the show started. And during all this, people had already started coming up to her because, again, just to feel in the air, people knew stuff was kind of going bad. It's like, if you need help, we'll step up. If you need help, we'll step up, you know, whatever. So we made the call. It was like, this is what we're doing. We're moving forward with it. People flocked to her for the entry booth. It took them a little while because, like I said, they had somebody bring one of her friends that were going to help us. She's ran shows before, so she had the stuff on her laptop that was in Kindleville.
and
So
Albion, somebody
or
brought it.
She called somebody. They brought her computer down. We got the interview situated. We got the arena broke up, and we're like, "This is where we're going. We're doing this." And we ended up, 104 head in the barrels and 48 head in the open poles. Something, I don't know, but it still ended up being a huge show. We didn't get over till 1:15. And it's like one of the biggest things I remember that week is all the way leading up to that. One of my favorite stories is, when Simon walks on water, and it's like, fix your eyes on Jesus and you can do anything. And I believe that. Like, I believe that with all my heart. And it's, if you're on that path, if you're on the right path, there's more for you than it can ever be against you. And when I made that decision in that arena, it was Holy Spirit. There's no doubt. Like, he was over that place that I didn't care. At that particular point, I didn't care what happened. I didn't care who I made mad. I didn't care. It's like, God's leading you in this direction, and he's already made the path, and he's right there beside you too. There's nothing you can't do. When you're at that point, there's nothing you can't do, and it doesn't matter who gets mad, because this is the way he wanted it to happen. So this is what we did.
But so they left, and I want to be clear, because we're not trying to throw anybody under the bus. A decision was made, and that's fine. But there was a very big atmosphere change.
Yeah.
When they left, and you have to understand, sometimes barrel racers are not the nicest people, and that's part of the reason we're doing the event, right? And I think we had just a couple people complain about some different things, but for the most part, we made a bunch of mistakes in the entry booth. We missed probably 8 different people, and nobody got upset. We just apologized and put them back in.
The
and
atmosphere changed back the other way. Like people were like, I mean, once we made the call and we got things rolling, the sun came out, and you could just tell the weight of everything had just been lifted. I mean, the entry booth was running smooth. The girls were laughing and having fun. We were all super communicated. We were all super tight, all talking on the radios. I mean, it just...
We ran it old school with like handwriting time.
I mean, the whole atmosphere, the whole grounds, everybody, I mean, hundreds of people, it just changed. I mean, that's not by mistake. So then, you know,
Well, no,
the
the people
service
that
was...
God brought to you that you didn't know some of those giftings that people had that were there, right? I mean, where your tractor came from. Did you know where your tractor was coming
Yeah,
from
that was the Saddle Club's tractor.
Okay.
And we found out later on that thing had a little bit of divine help too, because apparently it had some issues, and they were questioning whether or not it was even going to make it all night, because it was never
They just
never
left it
bought.
run the whole night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we literally left the tractor run the whole night because we were afraid it wouldn't start again.
Right.
But just the
But
way
it
the
made
whole
it.
thing, just the way the whole thing happened.
Yeah, we
the
didn't have
reason it
any
happened,
timer issues. We didn't have any light. We didn't have any more issues.
Nothing.
Really, the rest of the day.
Yeah. I mean, and then, you know, so we made the decision to go for it. The service ended up being, like, amazing. I didn't find out till later that I guess Nick had a couple of hiccups during it, which I didn't know about. But, I mean, I thought it was way better than last year. Like, I mean, people were... Because I was watching the crowd, you know, when Mike was talking, and I don't know. I just thought it was really super awesome. 4 people ended up getting baptized. Before the service was over, the one piece to the ranch that I needed right now, which was a grant writer, I was in conversation with a lady for that. I had 2 other numbers before the night was over. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And I mean...
And
I don't
service
know.
kind of worked out. Like we were going to pull into the arena, but it was just very wet, and so we decided to do it like between the 2 arenas. But then it kind of worked out because there were just people like hovering in the background, almost like that you could tell like wanted to listen but didn't want to be like up front. And I don't know if we'd had it on the bleachers if that would have happened, because you know there was just it was hard to be in the distance otherwise.
Right.
And so that was interesting. I thought we had a pretty good turnout for the service. So
Yeah. I thought the whole thing, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's just like, I don't know. If anybody's got any doubt or whatever, because for me, that was the first time in that type of, I don't know, atmosphere event or whatever, that big of a deal to where, I mean, you're in the fire, you're asking, you're, you know, whatever. And again, when you're on the right path, man, there's nothing that can get you off of it. I just think people need to know that. It's hard to explain if you weren't there, if you don't know the inner workings of a show. But I mean,
Which part's hard to explain? Like, I mean, I get the whole like show piece of it was a mess. Like anybody puts on an event, whether it's a horse show or whether, I mean, any time there's interruptions in an event, right? There's a struggle. But what is it that people would need to learn or see that you're talking about from the standpoint of there's tons of problems, you know, to go with it, but what is it that they need to understand? Because I think anybody that's ever been a part of doing anything, you know what I mean, you're right, some people who have never been a part of any planned event, whether you were a volunteer or not at anything that was big, doesn't understand it takes a lot to get it ready, and it's kind of a bummer when it gets rained out or there are obstacles or things don't work but from you guys' standpoint, like what are those things that you realized about yourself and about God and about, you know what I mean? Like what is it that you walked away, or what is it that other people walked away from it with, like, I learned this about myself and I learned this about God and I learned this about other people. Does that make any sense? No?
no, yeah, we definitely found our people along the way. What did you learn about yourself?
I mean, for me personally, my biggest takeaway it's like, again, I've not had any major trials yet per se, and this was a.
I know, that's the face I made too.
I mean, because this is so important to me, and again, I know it for somebody looking outside in, they're like, well, was it really that big a deal? But again, I mean, we spend a year planning this. This isn't. I mean, 65 people involved. Like it's a pretty big moving machine to do a big horse show, and it's like when it all falls apart, and you get in that particular point to where God's the only way out. It's like, I want to do it again. Like, put me back in that fire, because when you come out, the sheer amount of growth that you get, I mean, you feel like you can conquer the world. I mean, if you're on the right path, I'm just like, I want more.
Yeah, but help explain that to people. I think that's the mystery. Like, you can say that, but what does that even mean? So what does it mean when you're like, yeah, there's such an amazing growth that happens when God puts you through the fire? Like, what growth? Like, what is it that somebody, because most people run away from
Trust.
stuff that
Right.
when the fire comes, it's like,
Right.
going to try to do everything we can to stay out of the fire and not
Right.
operate.
I mean, it would have been easier just to cancel it.
Oh, there's no doubt. But
Yeah, like for me, so leading up to the show, like I'm the one that everybody contacts. So I'm not a huge people person. So I know
Really?
you're shocked.
And you're a teacher, but you're not a people person.
That's kids. That's different. Kids are different. It's not the same. But like, I'm the one everybody's contacting. So like, leading up to this was very stressed. I lost weight. I had hives. I was nauseous. I couldn't eat. Like, and then like, and I'm very worried too. Like, I want this to go right for everybody. Like, I want it to be good for everybody. We did so well last year. Like, everybody was like, this is one of our favorite shows and we'll be back. And like, so then there's that expectation, like now I have to live up to this again. And, Friday night I'm walking around and just like watching people talk. And I'm like, are they talking about us? Are they talking about the show? Is it right? Is it perfect? Cause I know things are messing up. Right. And so then Saturday comes and it all falls apart. And, afterwards, like as the day progressed, I don't know when it happened, but all of a sudden I was like, I don't really care anymore. And like, I don't really care what you think of this anymore. And, I talked to somebody about God that I didn't even know. She came up to enter and was like, thanks for still having it. And I was like, let me tell you what God did today. And like, I was just like, which is a lot for me. Like, I get nervous talking to people. Right. And, so that's where I grew a lot. And I'm still learning. Like, I'm working on forgiveness right now because like that was a lot, you know? And, so I don't know. What about you?
Again, mine just all wraps around the growth after the being tested thing. Like, if I could encourage anybody that, if you have these big obstacles or whatever, don't try to go around them. Stay in them.
But how did you grow?
Let him. I mean, for me, I think it's the trust thing. It's like if you know you're on this path, this is where God wants you to be, then trust him that you're in the right place and stay on it. Don't take the easy path to get off of it. Stick with it. Let people say what they want. Let them talk the way they want, because on the other side of it, the growth and the closer that you get to the Lord is just, it's priceless. It's put me back in. Like, that's just where I'm at. I'm like, let's do it again. Test me again. Let me see if I can take some, because I know, and I guess at the end of the day, this is what it boils down to me, because of what I know is coming in the future with the ranch. I think this is a small piece of the frustration that's going to come with that facility. I think this is all about growing and getting closer and being in better relationship to handle what's coming down the road, because you're not going to have the vision of the ranch, the full scope of what that's going to be, you're not going to have that without some pretty major headaches. And you're just going to have to learn how to navigate through them. And it's trust in him. That's the only way I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and that's just a hard concept from the standpoint of how do you define your wins? Because your stress and your anxiety usually comes out of like what you're trying to produce. You know, like, is the show going to be good, and are people going to be happy, and are, you know, is the event going to go the way that it's supposed to go, and is it going to live up to the expectations that other people have? And that's always my thing is that what are our expectations? You know, what is it that, so if what makes church a complete flop? I mean, because you think about church as an example, like all of the things that go into the production to make a Sunday morning work,
Right.
you know, from the number of volunteers and everything that it takes, or just like it is an event. So what is it that when you walk away, because I would say this is the biggest thing I had to learn from the beginning was, who am I trying to please? You know, because I'm not a people pleaser by nature, but there is a sense of when you put an event on every week,
Yep.
you know, or when you do something every week that has something to do with people and everybody has an opinion,
Yep.
you know, that can lead to a lot of misguided hope, right? Like, is our hope in the people loving it? Is the hope in, because we want it to all be good, right? Like, we want all those things to be good, but when can you walk away and say, that's the way it was supposed to be? You know, that I think is hard, because I think that is, and how do you walk away with a sense of, because I don't think this is what anybody knows until you are in that position, is it when you put your heart and soul into something and that's all you think about. You know, I say this about the hardest thing about being a preacher, I say this all the time, is you think about this all week long and you process it all week long, and then come Sunday afternoon and Monday, everybody tells you, wow, I didn't get anything out of that, or that didn't make any sense to me, or you were confusing, or, you know what I mean? They've been the same concept that you guys are saying. Like, you put a year and somebody's like, you didn't get my name right in the entry thing? Like, I don't think anybody gets that. Like, when when that's all you wrap your mind around, you know, is those kinds of things. How do you settle what a win is, and how do you walk away from it, from like, you know what, I get it. You know, somebody might not have got it the way they were supposed to, or somebody might not got their name right. But at the end of the day, I'm confident that next Sunday or next year, I can do it again.
Right. I think, I mean, because I remember one of the girls in the interview with Kelly, she was, when we got to going, or rather, she's like, you need to go up and you need to make an announcement and remind everybody of why we're here. And I'm like, whoa, it's going to be difficult. I was like, but I got this. I got to do this. So I went up and I did. I was just like, you know, sorry for the delay. This is what, you know, kind of whatever. And I was like, at the end of the day, and I said this over the PI, I was like, we are here to expand God's kingdom, period. And I really don't remember what else I said.
You couldn't hear
but
anything in the
like,
interview, so I couldn't hear what he said.
That's
I don't know what he said.
that's just what it was for me. And it's like, again, I know I was on the right path. I know I'm not moving. And for me, it's just like, at the end of the day, you just have to accept that it's all part of God's plan, and you just have to roll with it. And it's going to be exactly the way he wants it. You might as well just be on board with it and roll with it.
I think the win in our situation was the one story that we can tell about, you know, what happened. And then 4 people got baptized.
Yeah.
And one of them was Mike's friend's son.
Right.
That Mike's been trying to reach.
Yep.
And the kid, you know more than this because you were down there. He was interested in it and was asking Taylor questions.
Yeah. Just I don't know the beginning of it, but yeah, I know I'm going to say random because I really don't know the story behind it. But Taylor had a young boy come up and just started asking him about
he said,
Jesus.
What's it mean to follow Jesus?
Yeah, that was the term. So there was that, and then like I said, Betty and Dick Little got baptized, which, you know, I've been praying for Betty because I've known her since I was born literally since I was born, and she's been on my heart for the last year. I was hoping it worked out last year. It wasn't God's timing, but she made the decision this year, and then, you know, Dick followed along right with her, which they were my second parents growing up, which that meant the world to me. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we achieved what we set out to achieve, which is expand God's kingdom. That's what it all boils down to for me.
The 4th of July with his family, and
This was cool.
if you know his dad, did little gruff sometimes. Like we love his dad, but like he just is.
Yeah.
And we were getting ready to leave, and he said, "Well, Satan threw everything he could at you to not have that show, and then he threw up the middle finger." and then he was like, "And if I can see that, then who can't?"
Right.
And so that was a cool moment.
Yeah, that was a major win.
Yeah.
I mean,
Have you guys seen, because I know one of the other things that you were trying to do through Running for Christ is get people to go onto Life Online. Like, I know that was a part of the,
Right.
hey, you're at a barrel show, you know, or at a horse show, so you can watch online. Have you talked to anybody? Because I'm sure you see, if it's like it used to be, you see a lot of the same people.
Right.
You know, and a lot of the shows seem to be the same people. Have you
Right.
heard anybody that's like, oh, you know?
I haven't yet personally. We had a meeting last week, kind of touched up with it, and I actually asked that question, but somebody didn't show up, so I didn't know to check the like to check the activity or whatever.
Yeah, no, I was
because
just curious.
I have not heard any stories. I've
Yeah.
been kind of curious to hear them, but I mean, I know seeds were planted, and you know, sooner or later we may or may not hear of, you know, of whatever. I love hearing the stories. You just don't always get to have that experience.
You know what you could do? You could add a big. Do you have internet at the horse shows? that you
Yeah,
go
we
to?
do
yeah
now,
we just
yeah.
got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you just carry like, just like tailgating, right? So have you been to football games where you tailgate?
No.
No,
Huh?
we
No.
don't.
You've never been to a tailgate?
Sports.
No,
Ugh.
dude, we're not. That got him woken up.
I said, here's what you can do for the rest of the summer. We would even,
We can do it.
we'll just provide a TV for you that you can take around, that you just put outside of your camper, and on Sunday mornings you just take your phone and put it on there, and you can invite people over to your camper.
Yeah. See, here's
to
the thing
watch.
for us though. We're not usually gone on Sunday mornings.
Yeah,
like
we're
most,
not.
Most people.
Yeah,
No.
we're not
We're-
usually
Okay.
gone.
We're,
Although we've missed more church in the last month
Yeah,
than we've
we've
missed.
been
in
gone
But
a
you know what I
long
mean?
time.
Like sometimes
Yeah,
that
no,
would be
I
cool to
understand.
see if you
Absolutely.
could, like,
Just
you
like
could
live
carry
stream
all.
it on a-
Absolutely.
Bring people over and say, hey, we're going to take half hour, 45 minutes, however long the
Right,
Good
it
idea,
is.
and
though.
just
Sit
that's a
around,
really
sit
cool
around
idea.
and do, like, skip church on purpose and do it.
right.
You know, and take church to
Right.
them that way, and just see if you can
Right.
continue to expand upon
The
like,
online
this is,
thing?
Yeah, again, it's just a thought, but I think it'd be a cool way to, and I'm sure Life Church.
No,
right,
we don't have
Jennifer?
internet.
We'd be happy to give you money.
I mean, I'm not in charge of any of those things. but-
That's funny.
We don't have internet
Happy.
everywhere we go though.
Yeah, no, and
look it
the
up for you.
shows
No.
over the last few years, the shows have changed
Nick,
so
how
much.
can we make that work?
It
Nick-
used to. It used to be Saturday, Sunday shows, and a lot of this because we don't really go to that many big shows anymore because it's so expensive. So a lot of these local shows are just a Friday night jackpot and Saturday, but
But then a lot of people don't go Sunday because like you've
you spend
Been
all
gone
day
all
and you don't
weekend
get
and, like,
you don't get home till
sometimes
Saturday
you don't
night.
get home till
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
wee hours in the
Right.
morning. You know what I mean?
But- Yeah, for
the,
sure.
The bigger shows, they're like all day Friday, all day Saturday,
Yes,
and
all day
most of the
Sunday,
day
yeah.
Sunday. But I don't know. It was an incredible experience. And then, I bumped into you there. Must have been Monday when I
was
brought the
Monday
baptism
afternoon.
tape. Like, Jennifer, we have to share this. We have to share it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, based upon share like all of the wins, like the things that God did that you guys persevered.
yeah,
through.
just the story in itself. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I don't do a very good job.
Well,
explaining
it really is a
things,
small
but-
miracle, a big miracle, I guess, that we still have the show. I
Right.
mean, that there were people there that were able to give us what we needed and help, and And
Because you couldn't have pulled that all together. They
Oh,
left,
no.
and what were you going to do? So he brought you the people that you needed
yeah.
to finish that, and you listened to him, because it could have been so easy just to walk away and give in to everybody else.
Well,
but
that
you
was the easy
didn't,
path, for
yeah.
sure.
And you didn't. You're like,
Yeah.
no, God told me this, and this is what I'm doing. You
Right.
know,
And even
Felt very crazy because
Yeah.
I mean it was just pouring down rain and like
that's an understatement.
Well, and I think the other thing that you learn in situations like that is who's your people.
oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when
I-
we go to run certain things, it takes, like, you can bring in the highfalutin outside people, make it, and you need to do that, right, to get certain stuff done. But at the end of the day, when rubber meets the road, you know who are your people, who will fight
Yeah,
with you.
something that I've kind of looked back on. It's really interesting to me because the nuts and bolts of it to me is that's exactly, maybe not 100% the reason, but that's why things went down the way they did, because we needed to exchange some people, right? We'll just leave it at that. But she had a conversation, I don't know, 2 months or so ago. Somebody, at the end of the day, somebody called her and was asking her about producing a show in a different county. And because, again, we're only in year 2, but people know what we can do, what we can produce as far as a barrel racing show. And that in itself planted a really cool seed in my mind about where the running for Christ can go. I mean, county by county, getting involved in different churches and growing and whatever. But you would have to have an amazing tight group of, a dozen people that want to travel with this, along with bringing in, another church for all the rest of the volunteers or whatever. But it's just, it really got me thinking about, if you do have, a dozen really awesome tight-knit people, like, what can you do with the idea of the Running for Christ show? Like, just where could that go? How big could you take that?
What
Could
if
you,
started as a small church plant in the summer? So take a group of people, raise up a group of people from Life Church that will travel with you in the summer and do church on
I
Sunday.
love the way you're,
I mean, put up a screen. You got a guy that could do it. Like, you don't even have to have the band travel. You could put up a screen. We could put it up, and you could run it in different ways. Like, and you can try different methodologies, but raise up a church planting team that'll go around with you in the summer and do that kind of stuff. Like, this is my mission. I'm going to be a missionary for the summer, and I'm going to travel with you to different counties. I'm going to do 4 different counties, and we're going to do these shows, and we're going to be running for Christ in 4 counties. I'm just saying, like,
I know, but it's funny because I feel like, we've known each other for years and years now, and it's like our brains just kind of work the same deal, because I've had those thoughts. I mean, I really have. It's like, I don't know where this is going. I have no idea where it's going, but the seeds that were planted and the things that happened, I think the Lord's going to use this for something. I think this is in addition to the ranch, because they both kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Someday this will be a series, like a winter-long series in that facility, because I've already seen that. But it's just like, how many people with this one idea? How many people could you potentially reach? I mean, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, I've always prayed for mobile missionaries.
Right.
Like, how many travel? People are gone in the summer. Why? Because they're at baseball, they're at basketball, they're at horse shows. Well, let's put a mobile missionary people together, and we'll come and do church while you're there. That's how I look at it.
I don't.
You're never going to convince anybody to not take their kid to basketball, or not
Right.
take their kid to baseball, or not go to a horse show. So I'm like, that's simple. We'll just raise up a group of people, and we'll come and do church with you.
Listen,
So raise up mobile missionaries
You're-
that are going to go out throughout those times.
You're
to
not
show
saying
up
anything
and
that
to-
I haven't thought about doing, because that idea is very appealing to me, and we have to work through stuff and figure it out, and
What are you talking about?
see where
you
God
just
wants
work
it to take
through
it.
the worst possible thing ever.
Yeah,
Like,
and
what do you
I'm
need
not-
what do you need to work through, Jim? You
He's
just
got
told me
his
trust.
His wife is not totally on board.
I'm not
with all
there.
of that.
I'm not there
So
yet.
He needs to pray for his wife to get
No,
on board.
so no,
Ask
here's
me
the-
again in December.
This is the thing, is that so Ellen won't have to promote the whole show. She'll just help lead the missionary team to go out there.
No.
Right.
So she'll have her friends that are promoting the show, and then Jim and Ellen are taking our little church planning team and
So you
mobile
still need to pray for
missionaries.
Ellen to give
I
up
feel
control.
like I just got drafted for
This-
something I
this
didn't intend to get drafted.
This is what I love. This makes me super excited. this
gonna
is
come
no
after
joke.
you.
This is no joke because it seems like every time when somebody has a little light bulb moment, when you talk about the show, or I got it from Thaddeus a couple weeks ago talking about the ranch. The sheer idea behind this stuff, and it's just like you're getting all excited and you're just like, man, this is a good idea or whatever. It's like, I love that. The sheer idea behind the running for Christ and the building bridges, it just brings people alive. And when I get to watch, like I've talked with Thaddeus about this a couple times before, and just the other day we were in conversation. He was like, his eyes literally got this big around. He's like, I finally get it. It's like, holy crap, you could reach a lot of people doing that. And I'm like, yeah, you finally get it. I'm talking thousands of lives for generations because I know how to build it now. And when it happens, it's going to change lives. And I don't know. I love it. I'm into the end. Till he comes back or I go home, I won't quit.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, I have 4,000 ideas, so you can come and talk to me anytime if you
Jim
want.
has a lot of ideas.
Ideas
Yeah,
on
I do.
things. Yeah,
But-
because I think at the end of the day, this is what I've said, and I said it to our staff. The next 10 years have to change. The first 20 years of Life Church were one way. The next 10 years have to be different. If you're really going to reach people, like it's going to have to change. One, for sure, Life Church is going to cap out when it comes to attendance. Like you're in a community and you're only going to get so many people. Like that's just the way that it is. So you can't keep building this idea that you're just going to keep growing the church to 2,000 people. That's not the way it works in a building. We want to grow the church to 10,000 people, just might not be in the building.
Outside the building.
So, I mean, my point
Right.
is you just got to be realistic. Like you live in a county that
Right.
there's 110 churches.
Yep.
I mean, there's 110 of them.
Right.
Our goal shouldn't just be to get 2,000. I mean, you're only going to get X amount of people to show up to this church.
Right.
So if you want to follow the Great Commission,
Yep.
if you want to go out and you want to reach people and you want to do it, you have to change the scope of what you're doing. So now it's you take a group of people and you've raised up an army. Now you have to mobilize an army. And so that's where we are today. So
Yep.
the idea is taking that army now, which has significant resources, significant amount of connections, and looking for a place to go. Because that's the other problem with bigger churches is what do I do? I mean, everybody else is doing it all, right? Like, where am I going to fit in? Well, you got to create opportunities outside of the four walls for the growth of the kingdom and accept that as a part of kingdom growth, not just what you can count in your church on Sunday morning.
How could you not count that as kingdom growth?
Yeah, again,
I mean,
this
there-
is a long discussion about
Okay.
what
Well,
churches
I'm just
count
like-
and don't count. I mean, you know what I mean, right, Jennifer? Like, people just don't look at something they
Really?
can. Because, again, it all depends on how you measure. We could go down this road forever, but how are you going to measure that as a success? So how do we measure? See, in church, you know, you have at least some variables you can say, well, I mean, we're at least think we're on the right track because you have some things that you can measure. When you start going outside the four walls, what are you going to measure?
I mean, is it really our job to measure anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
This is, listen, we're
Yeah.
going to be here for
Yeah,
2
yeah,
more hours.
Yeah, we'll save this for
need to
another
go to dinner.
conversation.
Yeah. So that
No,
is, the point just is
Right.
God is asking his people to dream again,
100%.
enter the game, pick up your
100%.
sword, go to the
Yep.
front lines. And Life Church is saying we're open to giving your sword and mobilizing the army. That's where we are. So we're going to
Right.
continue as a staff to continue to pray for, throw things up on the wall. Some things stick, some things
It's funny you
don't.
bring that up because I was actually thinking about that the other day. I mean, again, we've known each other forever, and you know, I don't personally have a problem dreaming, but it's like if everybody's dreams come in different sizes or whatever, mine just happens to be, you know, way up here. But if more people would act on what the Lord's giving them, and you know, come have conversations with you guys. Hey, you know, I got this, just like we did last year. It's like, hey, you know, we got this idea. Do you guys want to get involved? Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, whoa, cool. And you know, we went and did it. If more people would do that, more people would use their gifts. Like, how many more people could we reach to expand God's kingdom? Like, just take that step, man. Start asking, ask questions. Take a leap of faith, man. If you got a dream, go for it.
Or be like me and find people that do have the dreams and help.
support.
Because I'm not a dreamer.
That's my point. So it's the both and.
Yeah.
It is God gives vision and dreams to people, and it takes people to
make 'em
accomplish
happen,
the
yeah.
dreams. Like it just does. And that's why I said we need to just find our place. That's all of the time. Like I'm just saying all the time, like find your place. Like God, you know, like Taylor's going to be talking about evangelism like this week. And so the concept is, can it be that somebody's gift to the kingdom is hospitality? Like all I'm going to do is have people over to my house and we're going to eat together. We're going to hang out together. And then somebody else might share the gospel, but I'm sharing the gospel because I cooked the food. You know, it's just like find your place. Like what's your role? Like where has God equipped you? And then just redirect it on purpose, right? That's the key. Is just taking who you are, redirect it on purpose, and then let God use you. Not everybody has to be like somebody else. You just have to be you.
No, I agree.
And direct it with purpose.
I can't remember who I was talking to, but on the same note, we were kind of talking about that. It's like God's not going to give everybody a vision to plant a church or to build a ranch or to make a movie or whatever, but none of us that have those big visions, we're not going to accomplish any of that if there aren't people willing to come along and help and whatever they do. Everybody's got a gift. Everybody can do something. Figure out where to plug it in and expand the kingdom.
Right.
I mean, that's just kind of the way I look at it.
Jennifer, parting questions? Or
No.
parting words of wisdom? Ellen? Jim?
I don't know. Mine's trust, man.
Yeah.
Figure out what God wants you to do and trust that he's already paved that way. And if it gets rough, just stick with it, because when you come through it, when you get on the other side of it, it's a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, I told Eric, I was like, today was really, what did I say?
The best word.
No, it says, today was an awful, amazing day. And I was like, not awfully amazing.
Yeah, right.
It was awful and amazing.
Yeah.
And
Thing that keeps rattling in my head is like, as you were talking, it's like, you know, God will give you a little. And if you do go with that, he'll give you a lot.
Absolutely. I've had that thought.
And so it
lot.
just keeps rattling. I just had to say that because it's like, you know, you were tested.
For sure.
And you passed that test and you allowed him to work in that. So hopefully your dream will come true and he'll trust you with more. Like what bigger thing will happen next year?
Yep.
And because if we don't obey what he tells us, he's not going to trust us with a lot more. So
yeah.
For whatever that's worth, there's my wisdom for you today.
No, it's one that, I've had that same thought. We've had that conversation before. You know, you got to use what you have if you expect more. So I agree with you 100%.
So when this comes out, make sure you like, share, comment. If you're listening, make sure you go to our YouTube and watch, because that's the other important part. Because that way, if you don't know Jim and Ellen, you can get to know them by, you know, looking on the video. You can get to know face and names. That way, if you come to Life Church or you see them, maybe you're a horse show person, you see them at the horse show, you can come up and talk to them about the future of what you can help them with, you know, helping all of those things get done. But anyway, once you like, share, and comment, it helps it get out on other people's feed, and that way we can help expand, you know, the vision, the dream, and the things that God's doing in your life and in the lives of other people. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.